take your 5 minutes, take your 10 minutes, just go sit. And, we don't really clear our mind. I don't think it's possible for us to stop thinking. But what we can do through meditation and breath work in those quiet moments is that we lower the volume. Lowering the volume does wonders.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, they even emphasize that when I was training in transcendental meditation, which is don't try to quiet your mind, because the process of trying to quiet your mind in of itself is a little futile, and then you immediately start to judge yourself, and then you're like, oh man, like this is impossible, which it is difficult, especially when you're starting the process of meditation. So just don't worry about it. Just the fact that you're even taking the time just to sit, and that in of itself is a beautiful act of self-love, and that in of itself is still helping. And then there's other little hacks, biohacks you can take. Like if you've got your phone and some headphones, then you can put on some binaural beats or put on a
Right.
guided meditation for
Right.
10 minutes. Like you don't have to do this on your own. We've got so much technology that can help. You know, um, we I'm sure we'll be creating some meditations for Wisdom from the Edge, for that matter. I'm sure that will be something we can offer you beautiful people in the future, or when you're listening to this, that might already be available. So I know for myself, I'm also writing, music for some beautiful apps that incorporate this. Like, use technology. It's here. We're not saying to completely go away from who we are right now as a civilization. Like, there's amazing technology that literally can help you with your mindfulness. So, use all the tools that you have access to and take that time. It's so important. And I think, a thought I had earlier as we were talking, Lisa, is this idea of self-love and how challenging it can be. And I just want the audience to understand, like, for myself, I've gone through such a journey of being in a place for the majority of my life with almost non-existent self-love, lots of love for everyone else, lots of love for life. And then when it would circle back to me, it'd be like, no, no, you're not getting,
Right.
you're not getting that love, dude. You don't deserve it, or whatever the many different stories that are running in my mind. And I just want everyone to know that it's okay to be in that side of, like, oh God, it's so hard to love myself. There's so many things I despise or I don't like about myself, and how could I possibly love myself? And just, those are normal, unfortunately, or just the way it is right now. That is a very common way for people to view themselves when it comes to self-love. It's always easier to love externally, but the internal love is, as a society, we've been almost taught out of it. It's, oh, that's selfish, Chris. Like, don't be selfish. It's not like, be selfish, and redefine that word.
Right. You bring up such a great point, Chris, because yes, we are not taught these things, but we can learn them. And that's the change. And as with any habit, this is a habit that gets created. And when you can, even if you don't believe it, if you can say and become aware of that negative thought loop, those thought loops that go, how we think creates how we feel creates how we think. If at any moment you can become aware of maybe a phrase that you say to yourself on a daily basis. I mean, I remember when I would hear myself, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually say that to myself all the time. I didn't realize that I used to say, what are you, stupid? What are you, stupid? Like, in my mind, I would say that to myself. I had to become aware of it through the practice to be able to hear myself say things that now I wouldn't even dream it, even on a subconscious level, because I clear it, right? So that's part of the practice, is you're clearing it. And then what happens when we start clearing out this old unconsciousness, and just for the audience to know that, by the time we're 40, we have around 65, 70,000 thoughts a day. And out of those, about 95% are sitting in our subconscious. only 5% is what our conscious mind, and remember, our conscious mind is always going. So that reminds, if you can just think of the iceberg, you just see like a little bit of iceberg, but underneath is this huge, what you're seeing is the consciousness. What you can't see or not aware of is the subconscious. And a lot of the work that Chris and I do is working not on the conscious level, but it's on the subconscious level. And because I wasn't even aware that I was saying that kind of stuff. So then I became aware of other things that I was saying to myself. You know how it's really easy if you're wanting to buy a yellow car, all of a sudden you see all the yellow cars all over the place, right? It just becomes known in our reality. So what happens when we start to shift that and we become aware of it is that our vibrational frequency, which is everything, by the way, every thought, every feeling, every action, every behavior, the air, the plants, the room, the universe, you, me, everything has a vibrational resonance. And when we shift out of maybe a negative thought pattern loop, we change our vibrational frequency. And that's where the magic of life really starts to get fun. Because then as we change that low vibration, those subconscious programs, we then become lighter. And that lightness turns into or transforms into a higher vibration, which then allows for the manifestation of the things that we want in life to actually find us. That's how we work less. And you were saying, there's so much, we get really busy in life, but when we take the time to do the things that nourish ourselves, the things that we have to do in life actually end up working when we do less.